We're back with possibly the last cancelled creatures video for the Resident Evil franchise. If you have not yet seen the previous 4 videos on this topic, please be sure to check them out, as you would not like to miss out on each and every one of these shocking designs that never made it into a full released game. Most of the cancelled creatures on this list are from the Outbreak games, so get ready to witness some of the strangest and impressive designs for new enemy types that, in my opinion, should have been included for a more terrifying experience. The Two-Headed Cerberus. Like with most creatures on this list, the Two-Headed Cerberus was meant to appear in the Outbreak games. I've never seen a hairless dog like this before, but seeing that it has more than 2 eyes, it's very likely that this mutated Cerberus was the cause of the G-Virus, as we've seen what it does to its victims. The G-Virus will create a new head for its host, shifting the other to its side near its chest. Additional eyes will grow around its shoulder and torso, and claws will sprout from its limbs. Only here, it appears that claws have grown in more areas of its body, such as its spinal cord, its leg hocks, its forehead, the right ear, and its front feet have enlarged claws that resemble that of a velociraptor. If a creature such as this one had only appeared in the Resident Evil 1 remake, I'd say it would be the perfect specimen to use its secondary head to prevent itself from being countered with a defensive item. However, since it's likely that this Cerberus is infected with the G-Virus, then it wouldn't be possible to include it in the RE1 remake. And the downside of the Outbreak games is that the Cerberus were barely included in any scenarios. The best locations to include the Two-Headed Cerberus would have been the Raccoon University, due to the experimentations of Dr. Greg Mueller, the Raccoon City streets, as you'd assume that stray dogs would end up infecting themselves after attacking the G-Virus infected rats, or the Umbrella facility where the G-Virus was developed. But if this was to be its first stage of the G-Virus, then what would its second form look like? And for that matter, what would its final form look like? Giant rats. Seeing as the rats were the carriers of the virus, it's quite the surprise to see that rats were never an enemy type that you had to deal with in the city streets or in the sewers for that matter. And if they infected themselves with both the T-Virus and the G-Virus, then surely there had to be hordes of mutated and enlarged rats throughout the city. And this concept art shows us that initially there were giant-sized rats roaming throughout the streets, still scavenging for food in trash bins. Rats will eat practically anything, especially meat, so survivors were lucky to never stumble upon any of these enlarged rodents. This may be the only concept art we have for infected rats, and since the T-Virus can make a small creature grow in a considerably large size, then the big rats shown here must be infected with the T-Virus. So, what could we possibly expect to see from the rats infected with the G-Virus? The Hunter Gamma Mutations. The Hunter Gamma Mutations were featured in the concept art for the Resident Evil 3 remake. There are 3 designs that were not included in the game, which is quite upsetting when you see the design they went with. Starting with the one on the right. It is uncannily striking to the original design from Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which resembled more of a frog than a hunter, sort of a combination of the two. But here, it appears as a more ferocious take, much more menacing and putrid with an elongated arm similar to that of a tyrant. I'd say it's the perfect design to go with for a new Gamma Hunter. But that's not saying that the other 2 designs aren't comparable in quality. This one may be missing an arm, but a vein-like tentacle is sprouting from its injury, which could be used to grab its victim from a distance, or pierce the tip on its victim to poison them, or worse, paralyze them. It also appears to not have any eyes, but it's possible that it can still see or sense its prey, and those vigorous jaws look like a one-hit kill. Nothing could possibly survive a chomp from that. Then the design on the left is pure nightmare-inducing. Everything about its appearance is remarkable, in a terrifying way. It's almost as if it's a mix between a xenomorph and a BOW hunter. Imagine encountering a creature such as this one where it uses dark areas to its advantage, making great use of a one-hit stealth kill. In the final version of the remake, one-hit kills from a hunter gave players a more annoyed reaction than a frightening one, but with the right creature in the right areas, you'd likely get a terrified reaction from this one. If anything, the remake should have included them all and gave them each a new name, which wouldn't be difficult at all seeing as their names are chosen from the Greek alphabet. And I believe the perfect remake would have included new creatures rather than removing previous existing ones. So here, I would have named them the Hunter Kappa, the Hunter Zeta, and this one would have to be the true Hunter Gamma. With the exclusions of many ordinary creatures such as the giant spiders or infected crows, it's a mild astonishment to see the Hunter Gammas included in the remake. But I think we all prefer something to the likes of bizarre mutations such as these particular designs over something that resembles a raw chicken. And even though these 3 cancelled creature designs are the far superior ones, it is probable that the developers of the Resident Evil 3 remake chose the raw chicken design for the fact that its open mouth resembles the mouth of the enormous gravedigger creature, as that boss creature would be excluded as well from the game, and this was their way of making up for its absence. The giant alligator in the Raccoon City Zoo. It's possible that this giant alligator was excluded seeing as we already encountered a giant alligator in Resident Evil 2, so we can't say that we're missing out on this, especially since the Raccoon City Zoo did include normal-sized alligators. But even then, we sure would have been caught by surprise if the final boss from the Wild Things scenario was not only a random chance of fighting the infected lion or the infected elephant, but also the giant alligator. The armored ganados and female zealots. These particular characters were meant to appear in Resident Evil 4, and most likely the player would encounter them in the Salazar Castle. The description for the 2 enemy types above mentioned that hitting their armor makes noise, even if using a silencer, and that they must be hit through the cracks in their armor. If making noise is part of their gimmick, then it's possible that they could have been used to alert enemies or the toughest brute in their fortress, the Garradores. As for the female zealots, they too should have been included seeing as there are no female members in the Salazar Castle. Not only that, but their appearance is quite unique. Every enemy that sprouts the parasite from inside them will only expose itself from the head of its host. But it's possible that these female members would sprout the parasite from one arm, making them a one-of-a-kind Plagas host. It would also have been interesting to see how this one fights using a sword. Would she approach slowly like the others? Or would she move quickly to throw off the player and strike faster, as her attire does not appear to be armored, but rather fabric similar to the appearance of a jester? Either way, these female zealots would have been greatly admired by the players. The Midmutation lickers. These Midmutation lickers are by far the biggest missed opportunity for not only the Outbreak games, but for the franchise in general. Lickers have been included in many variations throughout the series, starting with their original design to the evolved lickers and even bigger versions such as the Licker Beta. But for some reason, out of all the times they tried to introduce a licker mid-mutation, the creature concept would continuously get rejected. Throughout these cancelled creatures videos, we've seen a vast majority of disturbing monsters, and as we delved through countless concepts, we would always bear witness to a mid-mutation licker. During the original trilogy, we saw the concept art for the powered-up licker, which was the codename for the mid-mutation licker. For the Outbreak series, we were close to getting the mid-mutation licker once again, and the last chance was with the Resident Evil 2 remake, as they too provided us with new concept art for a zombie in its mid-mutation stage as a licker. But I believe they scrapped that creature for the Nemesis Alpha parasite zombies. It was the last opportunity to finally include the mid-mutation licker, but if you ask me, that particular design does not compare to the concept art designs for the mid-mutation lickers of the Outbreak series. These are the best and most creative designs for a zombie that slowly becomes a licker. I, for one, am not a fan of the new childlike licker designs that we received for the Outbreak series, as they simply appear as normal lickers with no muscle definition, and they are smaller in size. And since we don't see any ordinary lickers anywhere in both Outbreak games, it makes you believe that these are ordinary lickers, but with a new design, especially since the hunters got a new design themselves. And those, in my opinion, are an improvement over the original hunter designs. However, the developers did bother to create a creature model for the lickers that first appeared in the Resident Evil 2 game, yet they did not include them in the Outbreak games. In the end, it's baffling to see that they turned down the best designs for a mid-mutation licker and approved the worst design in my personal opinion. And they never approved a single mid-mutation liquor out of all the times it was brought back with a new design. Now, I mentioned in the 4th Cancelled Creatures video that I would start working on a video for the cancelled locations in the Resident Evil series. And after a year-long delay, it will finally be one of the next projects lined up. That's it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button to give this video a chance to grow. I'd like to thank all my Patreon supporters for their impeccable generosity. Your support means a lot to me, and you are part of the reason why I try to make the best content that I can. And if you like this content, check out the rest of my channel. You'll find more entertainment from separate franchises I like to cover, such as Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball Z, Celebrity Deathmatch, Men in Black, The Mask, Batman comics, The Terminator, TMNT, Dino Crises, Resident Evil, and more. If you're a Patreon supporter, check out my exclusive videos such as the Gantz content. And if you'd like to show your support, go to my Patreon and support the channel, which is only $1. Sacrifice that McChicken for extra quality content, my friend. But anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.